Alrighty, back inside the world's worst movie theater, and here we are about a third of the way through my top 30 worst movies of all time as we begin number 20 on the list, 20 through 11, if you will. But we're going to start here with number 20, of course. What happens when you take a bevy of really talented actors and put them all into a steaming pile of garbage? Well, you get the 20th worst movie I've ever seen, and that is Disney's Old Dogs. Now, Old Dogs is a movie where you had a lot of the same people behind Wild Hogs, which came out a couple years prior, which was a massive success at the box office. It was a huge hit. You had all these big stars involved: Tim Allen, John Travolta, Martin Lawrence, William H. Macy, Ray Liotta, Marissa Tomei. It was a big hit, and it was a movie that I actually did kind of enjoy. So they were basically given free reign to do whatever they want with the next movie, and yeah, Disney probably should have had more of a quite literal leash on this movie because, good lord, they blew everything after this movie. You have John Travolta back again and Robin Williams as Charlie and Dan. They've been best friends and business partners for 30 years, and their Manhattan public relations firm is on the verge of a huge business deal with a Japanese company. With 2 weeks set to sew up the contract, Dan gets a surprise. A woman, played by the late Kelly Preston, he married on a drunken impulse nearly 9 years before, annulled the next day, showing up to tell him that he's the father of her twins, now 7, and she'll be in jail for 14 days for a political protest. Dan volunteers to keep the tykes, although he's uptight and clueless, and with Charlie's help, is there any way they can be dad and uncle, meet the kids' expectations, and still land the account? Do you really care at this point? Just what was this movie supposed to be? Honestly, what was this movie supposed to be? Now, like I said before, I actually did kind of like Wild Hogs. I enjoyed the last movie that Walt Becker did. It was a stupid movie, but I got laughs in that stupid movie. But this is just, I don't even know what the hell they were trying to do here with this. I mean, I don't even think Disney even knew what the hell this was, because keep in mind that this was supposed to be originally a touchstone release, like Wild Hogs was. Because Wild Hogs was PG-13, and yet somehow Disney decided to put this out. And there's no way that this movie would have gotten a PG rating, and yet it did. And it baffles me. It baffles me how this movie got made, how this got put together, and really, Disney, you really decided to ruin your reputation for quality entertainment by putting out this garbage. You want to know what Old Dogs was? Old Dogs was nothing but watching talented actors screaming and acting stupid for 90 minutes. You have John Travolta, Robin Williams, Seth Green, Matt Dillon, Justin Long, Kelly Preston, Lori Loughlin, Bernie Mac, one of his last movies he did before he died, the final acting role of his career. What happened here? I really am baffled by this movie's incompetence, the fact that it got made the way it was. But, I think what happened was, I think I've heard some stories about how this was actually part of the last movies that the old regime of Disney had before Bob Iger eventually took over the role of the chairman of the studio. But even then, it's just you really can't look at you really can't looking at this movie and saying, no, this is good, we can go ahead and put this out. And supposedly there was a lot of stuff cut from this movie. That's why supposedly this movie is as clustered and effed up as it is, because even then, I can't figure out why this movie is so horribly put together. At least Wild Hogs had a plot, had characters you can get behind, had something had an intention for existing. This movie is just all over the place and has no purpose for existing whatsoever. It's a movie that is so terrible that, no joke, they were going to do Wild Hogs 2. And then this movie came out, and then it just completely shut that deal down. So we never got Wild Hogs 2, which, let's be honest, it's a comedy sequel. It wouldn't have been good to begin with anyway, but nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever. There's no purpose to this movie. There's no reason for this movie to exist. This movie is just such a disastrous mess on so many levels. I cannot believe somebody at Disney didn't look at the script and said they couldn't put this out. There was no excuse for how bad this movie is. Like, the title doesn't even make any sense. What about this movie it makes these guys old dogs? I mean, John Travolta and Robin Williams are old, but they're not that old. Like they're not that old to be considered that. And like, the title doesn't even make any sense. The only reason why this movie is called Old Dogs is because there's transitions that feature dogs. That's it. That's the only reason why this movie is called Old Dogs. Other than that, I have no idea what the hell this movie is. Just in general. There's no excuse for how bad this movie is. It's a shitty movie that wasn't funny, wasn't enjoyable, wasted a lot of good actors on the biggest blunder the studio ever produced. Even worse than any $200 million tentpole project they ever made. Like, I would rather take all the any bad Marvel movie, any bad Star Wars movie, any bad live-action movie Disney did before and after this, and I would rather watch any of those movies than watch this pile of garbage again. This movie was just... There's no words to describe what an absolute piece of fucking garbage this movie was. This movie is an abomination. It's a mess. It's one of the worst comedies I have ever seen in my life. Old Dogs, number 20 on my list of the top 30 worst movies I've ever seen in my life. So we're just getting started, and then we have another comedy coming up next week that is just as... What the hell were you thinking? But we'll get to that next week. And if you want to hear what I had to say about my number 21 pick, go ahead and hit the video there. Check out some of the other episodes I've done. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.